We lost him again.
We did.
Yeah. Woo. Ooh. Third Degree, the Third Degree Net Podcast. Third Degree, the Third Degree Net Podcast. Third Degree, the Third Degree Net Podcast. Third Degree, the Third Degree Net Podcast.
Look, this is typically where I tell you a bunch of stuff about soccer90.com and all the cool stuff they had, but you really only need to know one thing because you're a good Third Degree listener. You get 25% off your purchase when you use the code Third Degree at checkout at soccer90.com. So go do that. Well, hello there, FC Dallas Curious fan. Welcome to another edition of Third Degree, the podcast. Hi, it's me, Peter, and I'm joined again by my two favorite guys to talk all things Dallas soccer. First off, the good Dan Crook.
Hi, Peter. How are you?
I'm good. Thank you very much, Dan. It's good to hear your voice again.
Even in these trying times of no real soccer.
Excuse me, sir? The European Championships start in a few days.
Yeah, but I mean, it's not like MLS or anything.
And Nations League. And from some parts unknown, gallivanting across our fine land, it's your hero and mine, editor, founder of ThirdDegree.net, the amazing Buzz Carrick. Come in, Buzz.
Hello, Peter. Calling in for real this time from the Village Inn in Chalice, Idaho. Population, I don't know, 400, something like that.
Idaho.
Nowhere. Idaho, right? Yeah.
Are you trying out for a militia?
No, heading to the Lake Coeur d'Alene, although it is a very fascinating area, I will admit. But, I'm going to be at a lake house, so I'm not doing the rest of the stuff. But,
right.
There's a whole thing going on up here sometimes.
Well, bring us back some potatoes, please, sir. When are you back, by the way?
The 19th, maybe.
Okay, whenever your car gets you home, huh?
Yeah, whenever I get home.
Okay, well, let's see. Where should we start with? I think probably the big thing to talk about is what everybody's talking about. In mostly good terms, unbelievably, how much time can heal all things. The U.S. men's national team, what a week they've had. They have now bested 3 CONCACAF villains in a row on the run. First, a win over Honduras. Then that amazing evening against Mexico and Denver. And then just a little bit before we started recording this, they did a friendly against Costa Rica, and look who scored for the Yanks, our very own Reggie Cannon. It's been a nice little week of American soccer, has it not, Buzz?
Oh, it has been. Some of the guys that you were hoping to see rise to the occasion did so. Mark McKenzie had a rough start, but then sort of redeemed himself quite a bit, but he's still young, that's fine. I thought Reggie had a bad first game, but then opened the door to Yedlin a little bit, and then Yedlin didn't do squat to go through the door. So Reggie was back in, and he scored. So good for Reggie. It's an exciting week. There's when you see your national team rise up and have some moxie and win what is always a difficult game against Mexico, and in this case for a trophy of some kind, that's huge. It's such a confidence builder for that team, and this is what you wanted to see. This is what they should have been doing. And you got to love how young they are. You got to love how it's all guys that are going to be here as part of this team probably if they continue to perform well for a long time. It's super exciting.
All right, so Dan, you are our resident alien here at the country, Gesundheit, whoever that was.
That was Buzz, sir.
Dan, I'm interested in your standpoint because you're literally on the precipice of your national team competing in a major tournament, which they are not favorites per se, but goodness, they've got a lot of talent on that team, and you never know what's going to happen. But I'm interested in what your perspective of the U.S. men's national team is of late.
I prefer lawful permanent resident, thank you.
Oh, sorry. I didn't mean to water down your resident status.
Yeah, I don't want Buzz's militia coming after me.
Yeah. I know people.
He does know people. Yeah, it was interesting. I did watch the Mexico game. I don't normally make a habit of watching the US games just because they're always on at kind of weird times for me. What an absolutely craptastic, bonkers entertaining game that was.
It was
Technically dire, but
it was the most entertaining bad soccer game in the history of soccer, I think.
It was kind of funny because you've got like so many people saying that was the greatest game ever, and it's like, technically, no. Was it entertaining? Yes.
Yeah, it was mad entertaining.
But yeah, no, absolute batshit crazy. Sorry, what was? England is weird. We build things up, we expect the disappointment, and then we heap on them and destroy their souls afterwards. The World Cup was particularly disappointing because while you thought they're crap, they're not going to do anything, then they go and get to the semi-final, and then it actually you're filled with hope, and the "it's coming home" stuff goes from being ironic to, oh crap, it might actually come home. Which apparently a lot of people in the US seem to misunderstand and didn't really get our humour, but such is life.
English humor is a bit sometimes hard to grasp, Dan, just if I'm being honest.
It's magical.
Okay, if that's how you want to describe it, sure. I got to say, out of everything that happened over the course of this week, the amount of pride that grows in my heart for Weston McKennie never seems to be able to cease, because I am so proud that what I think is the best player on the U.S. men's national team is from the Dallas-Fort Worth area. And and everything that he did, from how he handled himself in the Honduras game when the Hondurans were just being absolute shitheads and wasting all that time, to his level of fight and winning balls in the air against the Mexicans, and then some of the stuff that he did afterwards and the way that he celebrated. Man, it just makes me feel so good that he is from my hometown.
You're from Little Elm?
Yeah, I totally... Go ahead, Dan.
I didn't know Peter was from Little Elm. Wow. That's like population 3.
I said Dallas-Fort Worth area, Dan. Jerk.
Well, yeah, Peter, I totally agree. And I love how he's, I think, taking on the mantle of, stand up and get in your face and get people motivated, which is sort of what a captain should be doing. I wouldn't mind seeing him be captain.
He should be captain.
In particular, though, I was really amazed by how much free reign they give him and how much ground he covers when he does choose to go forward. I think probably from what he was doing at Schalke, up until maybe a year ago, he tended to be pretty, not static, but more conservative in his choices. And I assume it's something he's picked up at Juventus, and maybe partially from Berhalter. But there were so many times when I found him in places that I found surprising. And I was like, the amount of ground he's covering to get up there and get back, he literally is playing box to box, sideline to sideline. It's just phenomenal performance. The kid's playing out of his mind, good soccer. And I agree with you that, overall, he's the best player in the national team right now. There are guys that do more creative, more interesting, more fascinating stuff and have higher potential. But right now, Weston is playing just amazing game. Amazing.
The other name that I still don't think has gotten enough credit for that Mexico game, despite the fact that embarrassing first goal actually started, that entire sequence started with his mistake, is Kellen Acosta, who I think had an outstanding game overall for the United States that night. I find the irony that he ended up getting asked to play left back to help kind of do something about that speedy little kid that the Tata put on towards the end of the game that I thought he did fairly well against. I just think it's been the really underreported story, especially when you consider Kellen's story about how he had just kind of fallen off the face of the earth and asked to be traded and went to Colorado into that black hole and of a team, and now has really worked his way back into as somebody to consider for the national side.
Well, you remember we talked about after that Colorado game about how much better he looked than the last time we had seen him, and he even was playing left back that day.
That's true. Yeah, that's right. I forgot about that.
And he it's not just, again, we talk about this sometimes with players. Sometimes it's about how they carry themselves. And when we saw Acosta in that game, covering ground, moving like we haven't seen him move in a while, carrying himself with an attitude we haven't seen in a while, he's carried that over to the national team. Now, look, is he one of the best players in the whole world? No, of course not. He's not playing in one of the big 5 leagues. We know where he is. We know who he's playing for. We know where his level's at. But he's found himself again in his game again. And he's playing again for me right now. He's playing the best, equal to the best soccer he ever played for Dallas, and maybe even better. He looks terrific. I'm happy to see him in the pool and a big part of what's happening. Now, was he going to start in the World Cup? I don't know, but I think he's put himself in a position to be on that team for sure.
Yeah. You know, there were two photos that came out after the Mexico game, and the one that I think everybody is aware of is the famous one of them celebrating in front of the Mexican crowd and Pulisic with his shirt off and looking like he hasn't had anything to eat or drink in quite some time. Very fit, Mr. Christian Pulisic. There's another photo that came out that I think, Buzz, you shared it on Twitter, which is a photo taken of the four guys with the group that are from FC Dallas, and that's Kellen, Weston, Reggie, and Brian Reynolds, all standing there with the trophy celebrating. And when I first saw the photo, I was really moved by it. I had a great sense of pride that those guys are from here and from the club that I love. And then as I began to think about it and dawdle on it, the picture really began to bother me, because I started to think about the idea that what if that photo was four Texas Rangers playing with, in an international tournament, whatever that World Cup of baseball they play, or three Dallas Stars playing in the hockey international tournament, or three Dallas Mavericks playing in the Olympics for the United States. The amount of coverage the local media would give that, or the way that the individual clubs would utilize that photo to their advantage, and it would also translate, I believe, into a much larger fan base. And so here's this photo of four guys that FC Dallas brought up through various stages of their career, but are each in their own way critical to those guys' careers. And in no way, shape, or form do they do anything with it. Do they have any credit for it? And they have a really, really long-running history of poor attendance and lack of coverage in the local media. And I really think that photo, I hope and pray that photo wakes somebody up in that club, in that front office, of what the world they are doing to themselves by not taking up the opportunity that they've created for themselves through the success of their academy.
Well, I think some of the slower players, like your social media types, are and do that. They're the ones that arranged for that photo, as far as I know. They're the ones that put it out initially. There's a recognition, I think, from how soccer works and where FC Dallas is in its landscape with the younger people in that space. The problem is, and you and I we all know this, and Dan's more used to it than we are. Dallas is a selling club, so all four of those guys have gone on. One's gone on inside the league, but the other three have gone on to the European level to try and play at a higher level than FC Dallas is. Maybe Bovis is not, but people would argue that it is. That's the nature of how this works. So it's a shame that for Dallas, those guys don't all play for Dallas. They all play for somebody else. They just came from here. So it's like saying for local kids to big media. They don't latch on to the idea that Dallas as a club helped develop and form all these guys. Until you get to a point where you can keep more of those guys at home, and those guys really are all playing for FC Dallas. Like that picture would have gotten more traction in my mind if it had been Paxton, Jesus, and Tanner in a camp, because those guys all still play for FC Dallas. You see what I mean?
Well, I don't even know if
it is the nature of the beast.
But I don't know if I agree with you on that, Buzz. I think the fact that there are three guys playing internationally and one guy playing with a different club, and they're all playing in what now is going to be one of the most memorable classic games in national team history, should be an amazing advertisement for this team and get people in our Metroplex to be interested in the club. But I think all of that's been burned to the ground so badly over the last 10, 15 years that even that when that picture comes out, it has zero impact in the way that it should be impactful. You think so? Don't you understand?
Yeah, I do. But like if you had three ex-Dallas Stars players in the Olympics, and if you had four ex-Rangers in the Olympics, would they care? My point is that the fact I know it's different, but Dallas FC Dallas and MLS in general are a league you move up from. So it's more like saying, what if there were four major leaguers that used to play for the Frisco Rough Riders that all made it to the one World Series. Would we be like, wow, look at this? They all came. It would be like a thing for like 2 seconds. I'm just saying that, like in the media, I think there's a lack of understanding that like the development process and how important it is that these guys all came through the club. And I think it would be a bigger deal if they literally all played for FC Dallas, which those 4 guys do not. Dallas isn't anywhere near a place where they could keep all 4 of those guys. So that's why I say, like, if it was Paxton, Jesus, and Tanner, there might be more local media traction in the sense that the local media don't really understand the landscape as well.
I think if that was Brendan Aronson and Mark McKenzie, Philly are riding it for a long time. MLS is absolutely fawning over it. And it takes that for local media to understand it. You have to educate them. You have to, how many times do you see, radio bits and TV bits and various sports media where it's like, I'm here to discuss all the various sports teams, and then, they talk about 4. Or actually, not even 4, because let's be honest, no one ever talks about the Stars. So, they might talk about 3. No, I mean, the Stars is what they're talking about. But
you're right. But to your point, Dan, what if those were 4 either current or former Timbers players, or Sounders, or Red Bull, or Philly for that matter? I just think the mileage.
That's what I'm saying. If it was Brendan Aronson and Mark McKenzie, Philly are riding it, MLS is riding it, and that's when you start getting people's attention.
See, that's what.
Well, that picture did come from FC Dallas' social media, and they have been doing that "Your Academy Can't Even" thing. I mean, some of the people that are involved in that stuff are trying their best.
Let me say this, Buzz, because I should correct myself. I didn't understand. I did not know that the picture was sourced by Eddie and the FC Dallas social team. I didn't know that, and so if that is the case, then kudos to them for at least doing that. But I think that even more drives home my point that it just shows how far this club has missed the mark over the years, that they've gotten to the point where 4 of the kids that come out of their academy are playing in a game of this level of importance and note, and it's reduced to a photo in their Twitter feed.
Eddie's doing a ton, but it's one person or a couple of people in, like Buzz said earlier, the lower players. There wasn't anything like a press release that went out to celebrate 4, I guess 3 former FC Dallas players playing in the game, and a 4th being with the roster. There wasn't any, there's just nothing that's kind of saying, hey, you guys need to cover this. Do this. This is great. It's a slow sports week. What you're going to do? Cry about Luka for another couple of days until the Cowboys release some people you've never heard of, and the Rangers. I mean, are they even playing right now? It's a slow sports time, and it's kind of like the time that's an opportunity to try and capitalize on that, and they've missed the mark. I mean, you could do a whole sales pitch. You add a silhouette and say, come see who's next. Is it Paxton Pomacolo? Is it Tanner Tessman? Is it Jesus Ferreira? Who's the next one to win a trophy with the United States men's national team?
Yeah, that's exactly it, Dan. Thank you for saying that better than I could. It is amazing to me that the club has gotten so far that they've got this achievement, and it goes largely unnoticed, other than the fact that everybody goes, oh, yeah, Dallas has a really good academy team. They're good at selling players. And that, as a person that's been a fan of this team since, 1997, and just like you, Buzz, that makes me nuts. That really, really bums me out. I love the fact they've got a great academy and they've sold a lot of players for a lot of money, but it makes me very sad that the on-field product and the game day atmosphere and the experience of going to the games it doesn't equal that part of it.
Well, you and I have been talking about, making a big hero out of Paxton since he was about 15. Unfortunately, he can't stay healthy long enough for them to do that, but at least, based on their marketing stuff, it seems like they've been trying to do that when he's around. It's again, as we always often talk about with this club, sometimes they have some good ideas and they almost rarely execute it properly and how it should be done.
All right. Well, that's all good feelings and good vibes for the U.S. men's national team. I suppose check back with us after the Gold Cup, or even more importantly, World Cup qualifying. All right, Buzz. I should have said something at the beginning, because here, even when you're on the road, you still take photos and send us your written in crayon run sheets. I'm glad to know you take
sure
your.
That's crayon. I think that's blood.
Yes, it's blood. It's roadkill.
Yeah.
Now that I'm looking at it more carefully, Dan, I think you're right. He's writing in the blood of an animal he picked up off the side of the road. I should have promoted this from the beginning, and I apologize for not doing it, Buzz. It says here that you have a small news item.
Well, actually, I have two.
Two small news items.
Two Huntsmen Dumps.
So wait a second. Do two small Huntsman Dumps make one big one, or one medium, or how does that work?
Well, I think one of them is a small, one of them is a medium, and I think together you're going to get a large Huntsman Dump.
All right. Let's start with the small.
Okay. The small one, from my spies, who are people that just went to practice and look through the fence, Jesus Ferreira is back in training and participating, and while he probably is not going to be fit enough to start, he looks like he will be fit enough to contribute in this next game coming up, which is, they still have 10 days of training away from that. So Jesus is back and should be available for the next game, so that's a pretty good piece of news for the club.
Okay. We'll accept that as a small Huntsman Dump.
Small Huntsman Dump. Okay, big Huntsman Dump, or medium.
Wait, you
Huntsman
said this
Dump.
is medium.
This is medium Huntsman Dump.
Okay.
There's a new player in town training with the team. When I asked who it was, my spy said the guy from Argentina.
Oh.
So, I took that, and he didn't respond after that, my spy. So I took that as this is the guy from the paper that's the six. I mean, I don't think he meant Messi. So, he didn't confirm 100% that it's the six that we've seen reported, but
Is it
I would imagine
Queen Gone? Is that it?
something.
Yeah, Queen Gone, something like that. The guy that Lanús that refuses to play for Lanús or Lanús, and they're mad about that.
Yeah, so my spies tell me he actually is here and participating in training.
Oh.
So that means, hopefully window opens July 7th. So hopefully we can, and if they're willing to, I think if this hometown team is willing to, release him out of his contract early, then they can even activate him early, I think. Not 100% sure about that one, but at the very least, it's nice to hear that he's here. I don't have a scouting report yet, but I think it's cool that apparently he's here already working out with the team. So he should be theoretically good to go on when the window opens. If not,
you think Luchi's tried him out at left wing back yet?
No. Given how badly they need a six, I can't promise he's not going to be playing left wing back.
You don't think he'll get thrown out in his six? Yeah. You think he won't get thrown out in that first game as a wing back? Just to spite us all?
Wouldn't that be hysterical? You guys remember? Dan won't remember. Peter, do you remember when Daniel Pineda came here?
Oh, yeah.
There was a translation problem when they thought they were asking for a defensive midfielder, not a midfielder who could play defense.
Yes.
And so he wasn't really a six. Wouldn't that be funny if they were like, we need a six, and they're like, great, left back, here you go.
Yeah. I think the Daniel Pineda that Daniel Pineda note is actually part of the list of amazing things that have happened to this club article that's on your website. Yeah, that is a great one.
One of my favorite stories about getting players from South America. But anyway, so there's two small and medium Huntsman Dump. Jesus back in training.
So he wouldn't be available until July, though, right? When the transfer window officially opens? Is that how that would work?
I think July 7th, but there have been times, like the official rule is if you're out of contract, like in the previous window, then you can be added at any time. But there's also something about if your club lets you go or releases you or agrees to transfer you early or whatever. Listen, it's MLS rules, and sometimes they're stupid, and it's on this end is CONCACAF. So I think the first he can be available is July 7th, but nothing surprises me anymore. And if it happens to be that he could be here like a game or two before that, that would be great. But the real news is that there's a new player in town, and it looks like it's this guy that we've been talking about from Lanús, and he has a holding mid, which they desperately need. That's all good that he's here. So that's good. That's the news.
All right, I just want to throw this and be on the record about this because while I know nothing about his situation at Lanús, I know nothing about the current state of that team, the ownership, or his relationship with the coach of the players. I do want to just throw on the record that it does concern me that a guy that would quit on his team midway through a season in front of important games because he has something better that he wants to do worries me because I'm afraid he will do that exact same thing to Dallas when he gets a better offer to go somewhere back in Argentina or another nation that he would like to play in. I just want to put that out there.
Yeah.
You know, that can be a worry. I'm sure you guys remember that Mauro Diaz effectively did that. Like, they pulled him out
Yes.
a couple of games before he actually got transferred. I think, honestly, that just happens. Guys protect themselves before they get traded in other sports. Sometimes it's the nature of the beast. Obviously he's really excited to come here. I really wanted to protect himself. So,
and he has played in games since then. He only sat out two. I think sat out two, or he sat out one, and they sat him for the other. He played like 90 minutes every other game.
Okay, I didn't know that, so that makes me feel better.
The one he sat out was against Gremio, so that was like a Libertadores game, maybe, I think. So
Ensenada's former team.
Yeah, so maybe there was a little thing there, possibly.
We heard he had to go and play against Thiago Santos, and he was like, "Nah."
Yeah, his guy's replacing. Yeah, I mean, listen, we should double down again on the idea that, obviously, on some level, Luchi agreed, okay, you can sell Thiago Santos. But they kneecapped Luchi like a week before the season. I mean, that's a massive, massive chunk that they took out of his midfield and his defense. And you remember all winter, guys, we talked about we weren't worried about the defense because really you were just changing one position. Like Martinez for Reto was basically even, if not an upgrade. And they had Thiago Santos back, and they had Maurer back, and they had Hedges back, and they had Bressan back. The only thing you were really worried about was Eddie Manjoma. Well, then, like a week out, chopped his knees out from under him and took out Thiago Santos. So getting a real six, an experienced six, a prime of the career six is a massive, massive importance in terms of riding the ship. The sooner he gets in and plays, the better.
For sure. Hopefully he turns out to be a quality guy and they didn't mistranslate his natural position.
He's a left back, yeah. Well, that's okay. Ryan can play right.
I'm trying to think who it was now. Oh, no. There was a story about Bobby Robson doing something similar when he was at Newcastle.
Well, you remember the stories about this guy in the paper for the Argentine stuff called him a 5, which I guess is what they call that holding mid position instead of 6, like we do. So, I think it's pretty clear that's what he is. So, we'll have to see if he's any good. Hopefully, he's good.
Well, look, between Carlos Grazo and Thiago Santos, they've had a good run of South American holding mids, and it would be great if they got. I mean, if he's even close to Santos, and if he's greater than Santos, or younger and a little bit faster and more agile than Santos, that's even better. So hopefully that'll work out. Now, I understand, Buzz, that you also would like to share with us that you've had a conversation with the manager of the team, one Luchi Gonzalez.
Yeah, I talked to him yesterday via phone.
While you're on vacation, no less.
Yeah. It was hard to schedule it because I was driving cross country in and out of the mountains, so it was like I was trying to text him and it wouldn't go through for like 20 minutes. But he was nice enough to chat with me a little bit. It wasn't a very long conversation, but I just wanted to, visit with him a little bit about, where the mentality of the team was and how they feel about, the recent results and that kind of thing. But the general gist of the conversation was basically that some of the stuff that we've been doubling down on, the idea that they've made this adjustment to the midfield, regardless of the fact that they need a 6, they've made adjustments to the midfield and adjustment to Franco Jara that's creating these opportunities. So like now they're to a point where the big thing pushing forward is going to be what, efficiency of finishing. They know 100%, obviously, that the finishing isn't good enough. And we can talk about next week, what that means, what this going to mean in terms of lineup, because we've got a whole week and a half to talk about it. But, they clearly know that the finishing, while the opportunities and the chances are there and are coming, and this talk of like this high XG that you see floated around by other people, they know all these things. But the bottom line is you got to finish. And Luchi knows it's a results-oriented business, and you got to score. And that's the bottom line. XG aside, there's positives to work with, but you got to get the ball in the back of the net. And then there's a couple of things in the back they want to try and tighten up. Obviously, Manjoma still is a weak link in terms of defensive positioning and help defense. And they got a couple banged up center backs. But other than that, he's pretty happy with the state of the team, minus the fact that no one is scoring. So, his take of the team is the same as a lot of our takes of the team, which was actually nice to have that reinforcement from him.
Yeah, it's interesting. Our very own John Leonard, I think we even talked about this last week, the article that he wrote that, kind of did a really nice job of breaking down some of the statistical issues with the team that indicated all of the stuff that we've talked about in his very John Leonard way. And that was kind of the leading edge of a host of other articles that have come out across different media outlets. John Arnold today in the Dallas Morning News had an article, and John's opinion I thought was interesting, which was this: maybe what Dallas should be doing is, or maybe Dallas shouldn't change anything. They should just keep doing what they're doing, and eventually results will fix themselves. That really the only thing that ails Dallas is the lack of finishing, and it's really bad. They've scored 8 goals, but 4 of them came from one game against a B-side, and then the other 4 have been dispersed in other ways. One of them was a penalty kick. You get that story, and that's really what ails the team. And I wonder, Buzz, if you cotton to that idea at all.
I do a little bit in the sense that I really do think that the last couple of games, the change they made, and we talked about it last week too, the change that they made has really put them in a position where they're getting the right level of opportunity without yet abandoning their defensive principles. The things that are, to some extent, the part where I would agree with that with John is that they are a little banged up at center back. That'll get better, right? They are the tweak of the tactics that's resulted in more chances. I think is really good. But I still think there's significant roster problems. You're going to have to wait. If you're going to stick with Munjoma at right back, it's going to take half the season before he really is up to where the level he needs to be, both defensively and offensively. So that's something that has to be fixed. And for me, the bottom line is the whole front 3 guys aren't good enough in terms of, again, this idea of efficiency of scoring. You have to be able to. It's not just did I get enough shots. Is did I put them on frame? Did they have to be saved, or did they have to be blocked? Am I actually getting scoring opportunities off of this? Am I actually having a chance to score goals? And am I converting? And the bottom line is they're not converting. So sometimes, I firmly believe, even if your guy, your forward, your 9, is getting a whole bunch of chances, and last game, right, we talked about Franco Jara could have had 5, right? All of that is awesome, except that he didn't get any. And there comes a point at which, and I believe, that if your guy who's getting paid money, and listen, when you're the 9, you're getting paid to score, and that's it. If you're not scoring, then there comes a point at which that guy's got to sit. And maybe Pepe's not ready, possibly, or maybe you give it to Pepe for a game or 2 just to make the point of, if you don't score, you're not going to be starting at the 9 position. Sometimes that. So I don't think you can just keep doing what you're doing. I don't think that's 100% right. I think you can keep doing a lot of what you're doing, but not all of it. You have to be proactive and fix some things that need to be fixed, or you're just going to end up in the bottom of the table. If you just keep doing this the rest of the season, you're going to the bottom of the table. That's not going to work.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, you're completely right about that. Your striker's there to do, particularly in a formation that uses 1 forward. He's there to score goals. It's easier to make the argument with an off striker, but you brought in a guy for $2.9 million a year who you lauded for his being the record goal scorer for Pachuca, and built him up as the guy to get FC Dallas over the line, and he's failed so far. Now, could it be a Cobra thing and there's like a resurgence in the second half of the season? Sure. But, kind of like Buzz was alluding to, Cobra went through that whole, you've got to sit. You're not even making game day rosters at this point before it kind of clicked for him. So maybe that's Jesus coming back. Maybe that is Pepe getting some game time. And, we've seen Pepe start. We've seen Pepe go a fair distance. He's not a 90-minute week in, week out boy, but he's definitely serviceable and lively. And certainly statistically far more efficient than Hara.
One thing, Peter, I think they have done right in the keep doing what you're doing is that I think they've gotten Paxton ready to start. I think they did a good job managing his workload up until now. I think like bringing him in at halftime last game sets him up perfectly to start this next game. He is your assist leader on the team, and having him in there, he's one of the few guys we talk about that can create special moments and create opportunities. And I think if you're ready to start him, I think that's going to be one of the nice pieces of fixing what's wrong with this team.
Do you feel like there's any, when you talk to Luchi, did you have a conversation at all specifically about Hara and his situation and Jesus returning and Pepe's role in that position?
Well, a lot of the discussion was off the record. A lot of it is just sort of background stuff, so I can understand what's going on. But what I will say about Pepe specifically is that I'm actually really okay with the amount of minutes they're giving Pepe. What happens sometimes with young kids, and if people go watch training, which no one can really do, but because they don't have time, these people have jobs and stuff that are listening to this podcast. But sometimes you have a player, let's use Pepe as an example, as we're talking about. He had that start he had against Portland, where Portland rotated their whole team, and the team exploded for goals. And Pepe was I thought, just okay in that game. He wasn't remarkable in and of himself. But like the week following, when I saw him in training, he was not very good. He didn't really seize the moment. You know what I mean? Like once he got that start, he should have ripped it up in training that week to prove that he should have kept the spot. And he didn't really do that. Sometimes learning to be a pro is learning learning to do the grind, which is that you got to bring it every single day in training. You can't loaf it, and especially when you're 18 and trying to take a guy's spot, for example. So sometimes a young guy like Pepe or a young guy like Dante Seeley, if you're wondering why you don't see more Dante Seeley, well, now he's a PSV. But other than that, occasionally these kids don't react the way you want them to react in training. And what I can say is that since then, independent of, playing or not, there have been weeks where I've seen Pepe since then where he's now starting to be more consistent in training and bring it in training, and because training matters. So, is there a chance that you could see Pepe soon? I mean, when you're a week and a half from the game, it's really hard to know. But, certainly up until now, I don't think Pepe has done a good enough job of forcing the issue in the sense of it's one thing to say Franco Jara hasn't got it done. It's another thing to turn around and go, well, who the heck am I going to put in there? Oh, I got this kid killing it. Do you remember, you may not remember this, Peter. I asked Dave Durr one time about okay, who's doing a good job in training? And he was like, dude, I got this kid, Lazo Alavania, who is killing it in training, and I cannot figure out how to get him onto the field. There's just not a spot for him. And it's like, that's not what you get right with Pepe right now, because he's not killing it every day. So I'm okay that he hasn't been forced in there a ton. Yet this week, I'm to a point where you need to bench Franco Jara no matter what. I don't care if you got to put Ryan Hollingshead in the 9. You have to prove a point and put somebody else in there this week. And it could be literally it can't be Jesus because he's not fit enough for that. But Pepe, Ryan, whoever you want to do, and put Matt Hedges up front, whatever. Somebody else needs to start at the 9 this week.
Thomas
Roberts. Okay,
Thomas Roberts,
thank you. Thank you, Dan. Now do Thomas Roberts.
Thomas Roberts. Put Tommy Poo up there. I don't know. Maybe put.
No. You're missing the joke. It's not really a joke. I'm serious. Like if you're saying go out there and bust and rip up. Every week on this podcast, you come back and go, dude, I watched Thomas Roberts, and he's like the best player out there. He's killing it out there. So everything you just said is defeated by the fact that there is a kid out there doing that at practice, and he's not even making the 18.
Well, in Thomas's case, he's playing the same position where Brian Acosta is killing it, and he's a team MVP. And in my mind, Andres Ricarte is playing just short of that team MVP level. And he's also got Paxton, who's in that spot a lot. And he's also got Tanner, who's in that spot. So while I think Thomas Roberts is killing it every week in training, Thomas Roberts is like 6th on the depth chart at that position. And it's a lot harder than Pepe, who's 2nd, because Jesus is gone. I honestly, Thomas is a bit of a mystery. I'm not sure. I haven't yet had a long enough conversation with Luchi, because, when you talk to Luchi, if you ask him a question, he answers the question for 10 minutes. So it's like you talked to him for an hour and I got 4 questions in, and I didn't get to Thomas Roberts. So one of these days, eventually, I'll get to talk to him about Thomas Roberts, but I haven't
Thomas.
yet. And,
even Buzz forgets about Thomas. Good Lord, poor.
Oh
Tommy,
no, I don't forget about
Tommy
Thomas Roberts.
Poo.
Believe me, I got when I start with the Frank O'Hara question, and then by the time I get down to Thomas, it's already an hour into the
I know.
call. So
I get it. I get it, Buzz. Even your questions are more important than by the time you get to Tommy Poo. You just forget about it. I understand.
I know. Yeah.
Okay, so have you gotten any updates, you or Dan, either one of you, have any updates on health status, Matt Hedges? You gave a little bit of Jesus Freya in there. Anything about Martinez or anybody else that's been banged up of late?
I know that Brisson left to get his green card. So that hopefully will be dealt with. That's not really a health thing, but that's fine.
I hope he leaves bad Brisson in Brazil.
Yeah, hopefully so. What I initially heard about Hedges was that somebody I knew was a little worried based on what they had told him was the injury. Mm-hmm. But then the team said it was only like 2 to 4 weeks. So I imagine we're expecting him to get back. I'm under the impression from my spies that Hedges didn't train this week, because they're still resting him and holding him out. So I don't particularly have any more info right now on Hedges other than that. Other than I think they're not too worried about him being out long term. And I really have no idea what's going on with Martinez other than he was labored for sure last game. He doesn't show up on the injury list. Martinez doesn't, so we don't have any idea what's wrong with him.
Well, they also haven't had media availability since the game, so it's
that too.
We're really going on nothing.
All right, so back into the front office stuff, because this is not really breaking news, but this has popped up on Twitter while you guys were talking there. Have either one of you seen or heard this Don Garber interview that is floating around the internet today in relation to having to answer a question from the Miami owner Jorge Mas?
I saw the Moss quote. I have not seen Don's.
All right.
Answer.
So Moss, who owns Inter Miami, and clearly there's been some issues there as of late, has a quote that says, "It's no secret that there are a segment of owners in the league that do not want to spend money. They're clipping coupons and life is good. That's not why we got into this." And so this reporter from ESPN, I think it's Hercules Gomez, asks Garber this question in reaction, and Garber's response is this.
Well, I'd say that, I think all new owners probably need to do some media training, right? And in this case, they're probably media training might have made this a question I wouldn't have to answer, right, Herc? So what I would say is that it's just patently untrue. Every owner has a different vision. They're all deeply committed, and you know that. You've been in the league a long time. Not everybody can deliver on everything that they have planned for a wide variety of reasons, not out of want or desire. It's about execution. And that's why sports are great. Those who execute well with a good plan win. Those who have a good plan and don't execute don't win. So, ultimately we have a very committed and passionate ownership group. And, I can't look around our board table and think there's anybody there that is doing anything other than trying to deliver value for their fans and be as good an owner as they're possibly capable of being.
All right. So, everybody's immediately going to say he's talking about the Hunts, and I'm sure there's probably some level of that. But to be fair, Dan and Clark have kept this team in spending, at least in salaries, not necessarily transfer fees, somewhere around the middle of the league. And they've put a lot of money into their academy and stuff. So I don't know if that's completely fair, but I do like it when owners run smack on other owners.
Oh yeah, you got to love owner smack talk. It's awesome. I mean, listen. We've said this about the Hunts too. That they don't. It's not that they don't spend money. They just don't spend money like you or I want them to. They spend money like they want to. They drop $50 million on a Hall of Fame when we would like them to drop $50 million on the team. So they do spend money. It's just a different kind of money, and certainly they don't spend money like Moss spends money. But the only thing better than supporters club drama is owner drama, and I love it when Polson mouths off, or when people get pre-court to say something stupid, or when I love all that stuff. I love owners that talk. I wish we had owners that would, not that I would want the Hunts to put their foot in their mouth, but I wish they would put out something more genuine and more real. Say something.
You should watch the video because, we always talk about body language. Watch Don's body language when he's talking.
He's so agitated. His head's like a little bobblehead.
He's got his arms folded, so that's like the first sign of negative body language. But as he starts to answer the question, his arms literally start gripping himself tighter and tighter and tighter. It's really, really funny, and I love the line. I guess new owners need to go through more intensive media training so that I don't have to deal with questions like this. I know, right? It's classic. That is fantastic stuff. All right, that's really, really good. All right, anything else about the team itself? We're kind of in this down lull period. I don't know how much there is else to talk about, and I certainly don't want to fight this week either. So. Because clearly I will lose. So anything else, Buzz and Dan, that you want to talk about, at least in terms of Football Club Dallas?
Yeah, well, I think as the next week goes on, we'll probably get a little more information, a little more about what's likely to happen. So I think there's plenty of time to talk about what's going to come next with the team, in the future. So I think that's all I got for right now so far.
Okay. All right, Dan, we'll push over to your little neck of the woods, which is all the lower division semi-pro stuff that's happening in the area.
Are you calling me semi-professional?
No, you were covering the semi-professional.
Technically,
you kind of are.
I was going to say rank bloody amateur. I mean, without FC Dallas, there's a few local games. Denton Diablos won 5-4 in Brownsville. Which Damon, wearing nothing but a smile and that Denton and that white wrestling championship belt, had his birthday in Olive Garden with the team. That was weird. But they're now they've won every game so far, 4 in a row, which they puts them second in NPSL's national power rankings.
Oh wow!
Let me look up. Because I made a note earlier, Irving FC was actually hosting Fort Worth Vaqueros right now. Fort Worth, at least before tonight, had lost all of their games. And drumroll please, they have... God, the internet's slow. Oh wow, they've got their first point of the season. They
got a draw, huh?
Yeah, they tied with Irving on a penalty. Well, good for you getting your first point. That sounded way worse
We're
than it should.
listening to Dan learn scores live on the podcast. All right.
Funny story. When I used to do PA announcing, that was what it was. Like the league would people would text around the halftime scores, and you'd be sitting there and the score from.
Wait a second. Hold up. You're burying the lead. Dan Crook used to do PA announcing?
Yeah, which is really hard when there's a lot of Polish and Lithuanian players.
Where did you do this?
That was the team I worked at. It's kind of like it's a one-man band kind of deal. You just pitch in and do what you can.
Wait. Back home in England, not here in Texas.
Yeah.
Okay, all right. See, today I learned Dan used to do PA announcing.
Yeah.
That's not one of the things I ever thought you'd do before. All right, cool.
A player's mum once shouted at me because the wireless mic I was using crapped out after her son scored and claimed that clearly there was an agenda against him. I was like, I like him. You're the one I think's a prick.
I love it.
Yeah. Good times. Texas United got their first win in USL League 2, home to 3-2 at home to Round Rock. And then, North Texas FC is back this weekend. They've got Greenville Triumph at the Globe on Sunday at 6.
Oh. Wow.
Oh no, we need a new North Texas FC person.
Have we heard how attendance is going over in Arlington for that team? Do we have any idea?
No, I got no clue.
Okay. Dan? I'll take that as a no.
Yeah.
I will take that as a no.
Not good, I imagine.
Yeah, I have no idea. Okay. Well, anything else that we need to cover today on Ye Old Podcast of Fun?
Well, we teased last week that we were going to do the FC Dallas Rejects
yes.
versus FC Dallas 11.
Yes.
What we thought of it.
Let's do that. Let's do that real quick as a closer for today's pod. So the premise is a list of a starting 11 of players that are currently playing in the league.
Yeah,
Okay.
That used to play for FC Dallas.
Okay, but they have to formally have played for Dallas and currently be playing in Major League Soccer, not retired players or players playing in other leagues.
Yeah, no
Okay.
retired.
Yeah.
I mean, you maybe could convince me of another league if it was like, somebody that's still competed at a really good level, but I don't think really is anybody. So,
All right. So who is the 11, Buzz, and then we can debate whether or not it's actually better than our current 11.
right. Well, I know Dan had a list too. So, Dan, let's start at the front. And across the front, the three I have are Fafa Pico, Maxi Urruti, and Michael Barrios.
Oh, crap. I even forgot that Michael Barrios was there.
Who did you have for your 3?
I had Tesho Akindele. I couldn't think of a better right wing. I was like, well, I'm not putting Don Bargy in the lineup.
Oh, bless you. All right. I think I like Buzz's front 3 better. All right. So who are your middle 3, Buzz?
Yeah, okay. My 3 are Kellen Acosta, Dax McCarty, and Victor Yoloa as my 6.
Okay, I differed
Right,
in putting...
can you move some? Hold on. Whoa, Buzz! You cut out like halfway through. Like you're cutting in and out really, really bad. So I don't know if you can move to a better location or. That sounds better. I don't know what you did there, but it suddenly got better. Yeah.
All right, let me try it again. All right, so my midfield
who are
3 is Kellen Acosta. Go ahead.
You go.
So my midfield 3 is Kellen Acosta, Dax McCarty, and Victor Yoloa as my 6.
Okay, I was one different. I had Ja'Cory Hayes in place of Victor Yoa.
Well,
I like Buzz's
I have
better again.
Hayes. Yeah, I have Hayes in my team because the back line is tough. So at left back, I have Breck Shea, Maynard Figueroa at center back, Walker Zimmerman at center back. That's a good piece. And Ja'Cory Hayes is my right back.
Okay, so I went Minor Figueroa left back, Walker Zimmerman, and then I couldn't pick between Drew Moore or Callum Montgomery centre back, and then Breck Shea at right back.
Breck Shea at right back. Okay.
Yeah.
Interesting. Okay.
And then in goal, I got Chris Seitz.
Well, he's the only goalkeeper still in MLS, so definitely agree on that one.
All right.
Okay. So how much? So I guess my question is for either one of you, just based on your individual starting 11 of castoffs, how do you feel that team does against the current FC Dallas team?
Dan, you want to go?
I mean, you've got a decent defense that's prone to a mistake, project fullbacks. You've got a fairly solid midfield, a set of wingers that flatter to deceive sometimes, and a striker that's not known for scoring goals very often. So,
All right, you do realize that you're talking about the actual current roster, right?
I'm talking about both. It's a 0-0.
All right. Do you feel the same way about your cast-off 11 versus the current team, Buzz?
I said I actually like my front line better than the FC Dallas front line, at least of late. I mean, I'll take Maxi over Franco Jara. Right, the way Vargas has been producing, and the way Fafa Pico has been for Houston. Right now, I like Fafa Pico better, and I like Vargas so far better than Jader Obrian. So I like my cast-off front 3 better than the FC Dallas front 3. Midfield, I think, is a bit of a wash. Better defensively, but offensively, it's about the same. And then defensively, it's tough. The outside backs are a real problem. Keeper's a wash. That's fine, too. So I actually think that my cast-off 11's got a chance to win because they're going to score a goal.
I think the thing you've got, really, is you've got more offensively off the bench that you can bring Bargy in and let him do something. You can bring Akindele in and do something of the 15 former FC Dallas players in MLS.
Yeah.
All right, I'm not going to comment because I think it all speaks very much for itself, especially when you consider
it would
that
be a crap game of football.
Well, I also think that there's a side story about the fact that there are players that are not playing here anymore that appear to be playing better than they did when they were here.
Yeah, that's fair.
All right. All right. Well, Buzz, we're having a little bit of technical issues because you're out in the middle of militia training, which is not known for great cellular connections. So we should probably cut this short. By the way, the photo that you sent of your setup in this very, very rustic hotel room, to put it mildly, looks like a scene out of something from Fargo, by the way. So thanks for putting out the effort to show. But the one thing in the photo that I love more than anything else, you brought the dog bed too, and that's a good dog dad right there.
Yeah, no, Reno can't go somewhere without that bed.
It's just bunky.
Yeah, it really is.
All right, well, have a great trip, Buzz, and be safe and come home and come back safely to us. Everybody in Dallas needs you.
Oh, thank you, sir.
And in Frisco, particularly in Frisco.
And particularly in Frisco. And Dan, thank you for your efforts in picking up the editing efforts tonight. I know that'll be a heavy weight to lift based on how this has gone technically for the last hour, so sorry you've been burdened with that, but thank you for doing it.
Yeah, it's going to suck. Well, thank you for your dulcet tones as always.
All right, and don't forget, the only thing that you need to remember out of this entire hour, dear FC Dallas Curious fan, is that you get 25% off your purchase when you go buy all sorts of goodies from soccer90.com. Go do that now. All right, thank you, FC Dallas Curious fan. We will speak to you next week. Hopefully everybody's here safe and sound and with a better connection on another edition of Third Degree, the podcast.
Yeah.
Never forget the name, Thomas Roberts.
Ooh. Third Degree, the Third Degree Net Podcast. Third Degree, the Third Degree Net Podcast. Third Degree, the Third Degree Net Podcast.